What's going on, everybody?
Yo,
Another episode of Save the Date. I'm one of your hosts, Heath.
what's good, everybody? This is Jamie.
Check us out, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, at Save the Date Now. Our TikTok is cooking, and we want you to come by and get a sample of
Cooking like
the
Chef
stew.
Curry.
Yeah, come by and get a sample of the stew.
Hey,
Getting right into it, guys. This Saturday, we are dropping our Stop Overgiving Reset Guide, our 7-day reset guide. And we're excited because this is our first big major product. It'll be available through our Stand Store link, which we'll put in the show notes of this episode, and it'll be available going forward. And, the book is interesting because we've spent so much time talking about overgiving, and Jay and I really labored over this book because, well, it's small digital asset. And we labored over it because we were trying to figure out the best way of truly helping people solve a problem, which is being overly emotionally invested in people relationships that have not signaled back that they're ready for that investment, that they're ready truly to welcome them in.
yeah,
And
I'm sorry, bro. Let me just jump in here real quick.
yeah,
Y'all quietly asked for this and really didn't know because from all the conversations that we've had with, as Heath likes to say, people in our own cipher and videos we've seen online just about modern dating in general, a lot of people seem to be dealing with dating burnout and fatigue.
yeah. And some people may not call it overgiving, but what they're doing, and the reason why we called it overgiving is because they're always showing up present, being more of who they want to be in a relationship. When that person is not signaled back to them, that's who they want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, over texting, they are over talking, they are oversharing, they
Mm-hmm.
are overdoing. Do you know what I mean by overdoing? Some of y'all will get into these early stage talk ships, not even relationships, talk ships, and start doing too much. You doing laundry, you picking up children that ain't your own, making
Keys to the car.
recommendations, keys to the car, keys to the apartment. Hey, do you need help with your credit report? I can take on another bill. I don't mind purchasing appliance and items they may need or may not need because you just want to show them how down you are for them.
And that's
Giving
just
up
your
your
that's just your
body.
normal who you are.
Yeah. But the reason why you're frustrated is because you're doing that for people who are not ready to accept you at that level or never will, because that's not why they're there in the first place.
Yeah.
They're there to have a good time. You should say passing el tiempo. They're just passing the time. They're using you to pass the time.
Or they just may not be at that level yet.
That's what I'm saying. It could be yet,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be passing the time.
Right.
I don't know. A lot of y'all, the way when you tell these horror stories, it sounds like they were signaling that you were just there to fill a spot for a season.
Yeah,
And by
starter kit.
season, I mean like three months.
Yeah.
We getting you from June 22nd to September 22nd. It's time for you to roll off.
Yeah. You was a significant other starter kit.
Mm-hmm.
And they just waiting to get on their feet to
Yeah,
find
you
that
helped them out.
bigger, better deal.
Exactly. Yeah. You were just a fuel for the rocket ship, homie.
Woo.
You were just a fuel for the rocket ship.
A means to an end.
A means to an end. And so this is just important for us to really put together this guide, number one, to name, to give you permission to feel, to provide clarity, but more importantly, to give you a reset guide, some steps to do. Okay, you've named it. You've clarified it for me. You've helped me understand it. I feel seen. Now what do I do? And we're going to have some more content coming at you about overgiving in regards to the next steps, which is what do I do? But in this particular digital asset, we really just talk about a reset guide, allowing you to go deeper within yourself to help you start to reset your heart and your mind towards A, understanding yourself, B, protecting yourself, C, continuing to give, but to identify how to give at an appropriate level and pace that works for the talk ship or potentially the relationship that you may find yourself in. And that's just important for us to name because, like I said, going further, we're going to have some more definitely expanded content coming to you guys about next steps. But it was our heart to really talk about this and to also identify ourselves in this. I was telling Jay that doing so much of this overgiving work with him and with all of you has really helped me identify some patterns of behavior I have. Now, I'm different than most people because I'm in a long-term committed relationship. But what it did help me understand is my pattern of overgiving as it pertains to the anxiety I have around proving my worth or proving myself in all of my relationships. My interpersonal relationship, my intrapersonal relationship, which is my relationship to myself, my professional relationships, and understanding that everything I was doing was growing out of the soil of anxiety. No matter what I planted, no matter what seeds I put into the soil, that soil was anxiety, because underneath the anxiety was really just a strong bed of I have to prove myself. There was an understanding that I was not good enough, that I needed to show up and show out. Some of this was imposed upon me as a child. The classic line we saw in Scandal with Kerry Washington and Joseph Morton. What did I teach you? As you stuttering, what did I teach you? You have to be twice as good to have half of what they have. That is drilled into your mind as a young Black achiever. And so that was part of my anxiety. So if you're not seeing these leaps and these moves up, that's a problem. But also then you come with your own personal culture, little C culture of how you process the world. And if you have an anxiety system that you inherited from your parents, like most of us have, and your parents were anxious, or one parent was anxious and you spent a majority of time with them, you end up being anxious. So you start pairing and compounding and marrying these situations together, these issues together, and you start to have a recipe for disaster when it comes to being well trained and conditioned to love yourself and extend yourself appropriately. Because you're supposed to give. You're not supposed to go from hot to cold. We don't want you guys to be cold. We want you to be hot at the right level. So you don't start a high, you start a low medium, and you move according to what you're trying to cook, right? Because if you just start at a certain level to make rotisserie or steak, you're going to ruin the steak. You're going to ruin the meal. It's the same thing with relationships. You want to start and maintain the right level of heat in order to get to that meal that you so deliciously desire.
That you're salivating for.
Yeah.
And that's a big one that you just mentioned, Heath. The reasons why people overgive, the driver, the conditioning of having to prove yourself. There's a lot of people that feel like, are made to feel like they aren't worthy. They've been made to feel like they're not worthy. And we've seen how it's impacting their relationships where they show up and they feel like, if I don't do, then they won't pick me. If I don't open these legs or open that wallet or take them here to Nobu or,
Turks
One
and
Oak
cakes.
or Turks and Cakes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Y'all know the situations y'all have been in where people have made you feel like if you don't do X, then you're not worthy of their love.
Yeah.
And that's really what overgiving stems from. You doing something with the intention to curate an outcome, to curate the outcome of this person liking you, to curate the outcome or manufacture the outcome of this person choosing you, of giving you the relationship that you desire. You deserve it and you desire it, but they're holding it back from you in your mind because you haven't done enough.
Yeah.
And that's what this reset is about, is recognizing your patterns so you're able to roll off of that and come with a healthier mindset to the table of dating.
Absolutely.
I desire and I deserve.
Yeah, exactly. And you're worthy of it.
And you're worthy of it. Facts.
You're definitely worthy of love.
Yeah.
And so just, again, keeping the lens a little bit, the magnifying lens on me for a second, Jay, and me and you have talked about this over the years, but this idea of not being good enough, right? I've talked to you about that, this idea of not being good enough. And what I think so shameful about it, at least in my case, is it's been humming so long in the background, you don't know where to unplug the noisemaker anymore. You forgot what it is. You done moved the furniture in your heart around so much. You've changed everything. And now you've forgotten that this is now just part of the background noise of your mental life, your emotional life. And it's so difficult at times to spot it because many times your friends may not be attuned to it. And if they are attuned to it, they may experience you as defensive around it, or someone who's resistant to their help or their support to get you to look at it. And sometimes people just are caught up in their own noise that's playing in the background. And it's just unfortunate because a lot of us just get into these cycles of just being ourselves. And you know how I feel about that because I'm really a big person on self development and personal development, self improvement and personal development. And if you're just staying stagnant, you really can just write yourself right out of the picture of your life.
Write yourself into an early grave.
Yeah, absolutely. And really miss out on the opportunities that are there for you. There's an old phrase, what's the richest place in the world?
Cemetery.
The cemetery, because people just die.
With all of these gifts and talents
Yeah.
stacked
Yeah,
up in them.
opportunities. Yeah, they never took the risks. So the whole idea is this book by Del Toro, I forgot his name, Del Toro, but it's rob the grave of its greatness. You want to rob the grave of its greatness. And you really want to be about the business of changing your life, especially your love life when it comes to love and dating, so that you can be more sane, more calm, more peaceful. And I'll say this because people have become so skeptical and disillusioned, but more hopeful.
Yo, let me just say this real quick, bro. I just want to double back and just say I'm not being flippant or frivolous at all when I say you could write yourself into an early grave. I don't want to play around with self-unaliving or self-harm or any of that, but like there are people who have let that sink into their psyche that they aren't worthy to the point where they have harmed themselves. So this is another reason why, even outside of dating, beyond dating, it's important that you know and tell yourself regularly, affirm yourself regularly. No, I'm worthy. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
And I say affirm yourself even when you don't feel it, because you're going to say it initially and it's going to go down weird and awkward. It's kind of like taking in castor oil for those of us who had to drink any castor oil or some of those weird cough remedies that we were
Suppressants,
taking.
yeah.
Yeah, suppressants that we were taking as children. Now it's bubble gum and it's great. The food chemists have worked well with the pharmacists to come up with better tasting remedies, but before it was horrible. But you had to take it. And in the beginning, you take it, it tastes horrible, but over time you start to feel better. And that's the journey you have to, do with yourself. That's the risk you have to be willing to take with yourself. I just think it's just really unfortunate that that we're losing the thread of what it really means to connect with others. That's a big problem for me. I'm a big proponent of marriage, big proponent of couples, relationships. I see that as the number one wealth creation vehicle. And we just end up putting ourselves in these boxes where we feel more confident and more strong when we're alone. And you should feel confident and strong to stand on your own, but not in just being perpetually alone. And that scares me because I've seen what great couples have done together with relatively nothing, starting off with rags and literally ending up with riches
Yeah.
because they stuck by each other.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think that's somewhat a bit of a generational teaching. Like, I think our parents coming from the boomer generation, like they were taught to kind of stand on their own too. And they saw the benefit of kind of being singular or not necessarily
Yes.
being in community, but not relying on community. Where the generation before then, like they always talk about,
Silent generation.
there was never divorces or very little divorces, or the community aspect of a community where people got together and had Sunday dinners at certain people's house. Like that was a big thing. And I think with our generation and beyond, we've all just become conditioned to be islands unto ourselves. I think we're starting to see more of a community aspect and component to life and culture now. But, to your point, it does get scary when you see how singular people can be and how alone people are choosing to be.
Well,
Yeah.
then they're choosing to be because there is so much chaos that they encounter when they wade into the dating pool. So much tragedy, so much fear, deception, betrayal, some pleasure,
Game playing.
Yeah. And there's more noise than there are signals, and people are saying, hey, man, I can just go home and play video games. I can go
do
home
that all by myself.
I find a myriad of activities and experiences I can do on my own, but deep down inside, they still yearn that connection and they feel stuck in a loop.
Yeah.
Stuck in a loop of loneliness, stuck in a loop of, I'm lonely. I feel the urge. I take a risk, betrayal. I feel lonely. I feel the urge. I take a risk. I fail. And it's just a horrible loop for people to be in because they feel imprisoned by their own emotions and urges. And that's not why I think we have our complex constitution. of emotions. They're there for enjoyment, for adaptation, for understanding, for love, and all that's missing in much of our modern discourse about dating, because people, I think, are stuck in these wicked cycles that ultimately lead to failure again. And not failure like failing forward, but just like
But yeah, plain
betrayal.
failure. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Like the illustration of Daffy Duck's beak being shot.
Yeah.
It's just it's gone
Sideways.
now. It's not even
Yeah,
there
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's the reason why we created this reset guide is what we're talking about. And I just want to read a little bit of what you guys will get. Hopefully you go to our stand store on Saturday and you just become part of our community with this. But it's a 7-day reset guide. And by the end of the 7 days, you will, one, have a clearer way to recognize when generosity is turning into depletion. You'll get a simple framework for pacing your effort, without closing your heart and becoming cold. And you'll develop a personal standard for giving that you can keep without overthinking or over explaining, which I think is one of the big things that even me reading it, I took away from it. Like, you get to set the standard for what it is that you want and want to see in your relationships. Now you get to, bring that into concert, whatever person that you're trying to build with. But at least if you know, hey, I don't have to give access earlier than I want to, and you're comfortable, and that's what makes you comfortable, like, you can do that. I know a lot of my women friends have been like, man, I really feel like I slept with this guy too early. I opened the treasure trove a little too soon.
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
I've let him taste the nectar, and it's like, I've been texting and I haven't heard anything back. I just, so for
Your man
ladies
leading
like
with
that,
silence.
not leading with silence.
Yeah, leading with silence.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, and I've heard on the other end, some of my guy friends are like, man, yo, I paid for the first 5 dates, and now that's just the standard. I'm just expected to pay for everything, and I gotta be and I mean, we really don't even have a serious commitment. She hasn't signaled that she wants to be with me. She just likes the places that I take her or the resources that I signal. So you guys will get to understand how you can roll off of those patterns, recreate your own standards, and bring them into your dating experience, and not just be subject to, what other people expect of you.
I'll say this too, and you can also bring them into your own internal life. I keep saying that because a lot of this work starts with you.
Mm,
It starts with, truthing with yourself, truthing with your understanding of yourself, and
hmm.
truthing with your habits
As all
that,
change. Yep.
yeah, that have either served you at one point or no longer serve you. Because recognizing, and not to get too deep with it, because we're not clinicians, but recognizing that some of the habits we have of overgiving come from childhood. They come from a way of our nervous system preparing us to survive in homes, in childhood scenarios or situations that were either violent, difficult, chaotic, that were riddled with warfare. And not all warfare is physical. There's spiritual warfare, emotional warfare, and
Psychological warfare.
psychological
Hmm.
warfare. So we take a moment to recognize that this is not about anyone being right or wrong. We're naming and identifying. And again, I keep saying this, as I said before, giving you the permission to get relief, to be relieved, because you're entitled to that. You're worthy of that. You deserve that. And that's where I believe a lot of us need to be in order to move forward. So rejoice.
And again, I say,
Hey, rejoice. Because again, I can't overemphasize this enough. Hope is what is going to lift you higher. There is hope for you, and there's hope for all of us. Because listen, Jay and I have been through our own relationship dramas, and you'll hear more
Mm,
about them as you sojourn with us on this podcast. And we've told some of them in the previous iteration of our podcast, the Love God, Love Sex Show, where we just talked about the decisions we made over the years, sometimes out of a desire to serve, sometimes out of a feeling of selfishness, and how we've reaped the consequences of both those actions. But at the end of it, what we had discovered is the importance of being hopeful for a change, not just in the other person, sometimes in ourselves, because sometimes you're going to war with yourself, really trying to break habits, institute new habits, and show this other person, I'm a different person than what you encountered. I'm different than the person that hurt you. I'm different than the person that had this experience with you that might have been negative, or maybe in your mind is interpreted as undesirable. I'm different now.
and as you're talking about, I'm different than that child who was programmed with all of these bad habits.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
grown up from that. I realized that that's what was driving a lot of these actions that I took to overgive and prove that I'm worthy, but I don't have to do that anymore. I'm different from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how I believe overgiving at times shows up in so many different ways. But one way I believe it shows up is constantly trying to overmanage the person you're with,
Hey,
trying to influence their actions, trying to influence what they buy, the choices they make. It used
how
to be
they see
called
you.
nagging.
Mm-hmm.
And men nag too, by the way. It's just
Oh,
done differently.
absolutely.
They do it differently. And that is one way overgiving shows up, because you think, if I can just get so into you and so into who you are and so into your psyche and your mindset, I can just be a positive force for good. I automatically think of Elmira from Tiny Toons, who was the young girl in Tiny
Taking it
Toons who used to
back.
get all the pets. And she would say, I hug him and squeeze him and love him. Meanwhile, she's choking the cat or choking the dog or choking the parakeet, because she had all this love to give, but she was squeezing the very life out of that animal. And that's what we do. We get so excited to love and give, but we squeeze the life out of that relationship. And we start to squeeze the life out of that person we're with. And anybody with a strong sense of self and a sound mind is going to stiff arm you and start running as fast as they can.
And to add some more context, they may not be running because they don't like what you're trying to give. It may feel forced or a little too soon. You know what I mean? I think this is what we're kind of talking about, where, you may be emotionally intelligent and you may be self-aware and you have all of this love to give, but there's pacing that's required for that. You know what I mean? You can't just open the floodgates because you have so much to give. Not everybody's ready for that tidal wave in the beginning.
And the reset guide will help you identify yourself and identify actions that are important to notice when you're dealing with people. Because the other side of overgiving is, as you just mentioned, I paid for all these dinners and they're not really indicating that they want to be with me. But every time we get together, I'm always giving and paying. Other part is, we had a great time. We're cool. I slept with you. Now you've gone from being super vigilant and attentive to, as I said before, leading with silence.
Mm-hmm. Jiminy
Silence now is your
crickets.
greatest joy. And so what it's going to do is allow you to deal with the emotions and the discomfort you feel when you start to stick up for yourself. When you start to own your story, when you start to see that your story has value and that you have a right to share your story and understand your story. Doesn't mean your story's true, but you have a right to tell your story and understand your story. And when you start to do that, you're going to slowly find ways in the reset guide to, number one, pause, two, observe, three, decide. So pause, observe, decide. Pause, because there are times you're going to try to over communicate, over explain, seek out to do more. And you need to pause when you feel that feeling. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Observe. When you pause and you're no longer giving them the keys to the car, you're no longer buying items for them, you're no longer showing up and giving up your body. When you pause, observe how they respond in your pause.
Because that is data.
And that's data you need to make a better decision about where you are with them and where you want to be with them.
Mm-hmm. And what
And
you
then
need to
three,
give next.
yes.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, good segue, decide. Decide what you want to do, because there's going to be a whole menu of options that will present itself. Once you pause, you observe their reaction, and then you decide. And when you decide, that's up to you. And that conversation is a conversation for another time about what you should be deciding about.
I mean, I really feel like observation should just be a consistent thing you do, because even when you decide what you want to do, you'll need to observe. Like, let's say you are in the habit of overgiving, as he talked about, by paying. You decide to not necessarily stop, but you pump the brakes a little bit. You ask, hey, do you feel like it's okay for you to cover this next time we go out? Be observant, because it may not be a full stop or a hard pivot from something, but it just might be a slight roll off. But even that's data, how they treat that.
Because I got something to say about that.
Talk your
You guys
shit.
think we're maybe talking about men, but there's some women who are paying all the time.
Oh, facts. Big facts. Especially in 2026.
Yeah. So, a lot of this stuff gets gender coded as men do this and women do that. Listen, everybody's overgiving. Just like you could argue, everybody's taken. There's takers.
Yeah.
And we have story of women takers and men takers and women takers.
As you like to say, he, she, and theys.
Yeah. He, she, and theys.
Yeah.
who are violating every day, and he, she, theys who are leading with their heart to do the best by themselves and others as much as they can. They're leaving their all on the mat. They're leaving their all on the court every single time they're with you. So, like Jay said, observation is just a reoccurring state you should be in.
I
Because
like that POD.
yeah, pause,
Pause, observe,
observe,
and
decide.
decide.
POD reminds me of that rock group from the 90s.
Oh, wow. Taking
Yeah,
it
that's
back.
old school. That's the white dude with the dreads. Guys, this journey with you as we continue to make it has been awesome. It's taught Heath, Jay, and I so much about what it means to serve. And we are grateful for you taking time to listen to us, chat with us, comment with us, especially on our TikTok. This reset guide is dropping on Valentine's Day. We'll be having a TikTok live. We'll put more about that in the show notes. And if you're on TikTok, come join us. We'll be around 9 a.m. TikTok, doing a little Valentine's pregame, just talking about overgiving and just vibing, learning about each other as we hope you're learning about us. So the reset guide will drop. It'll be the stand store and the link. It'll go live on Saturday and we'll be there. So you can come join us on Saturday or see us next time when we're doing another episode. Until then, this has been Save the Date. I'm Heath.
I'm Jamie, y'all.
Take care.
Peace.